just an FYI, the birth rate is not declining because Gen Z is too feminist. The birth rate's declining because Gen Z is the brokest generation. When an entire generation is sitting there telling you, we cannot afford homes, we can't afford rent, we can't afford insurance, we can't afford gas, we can't afford groceries. Most of us can't even afford to stop living with our parents. What makes you think that those economic conditions make us want to go reproduce? So no, it's not the evil feminists that are telling your kids to not have kids. It is the economic state of this country that is preventing people from being able to have children.
The birth rate just went down another 1%, and I'm confused as to why everybody else is confused. There are 43-year-olds with 5-year-olds who just bought their first home last year. That's why the birth rate is declining. There are 25-year-olds to 30-year-olds still living at home with their parents, and there are 67-year-olds still working a 9-to-5 job because they cannot afford to retire. Meanwhile, gas is also skyrocketing while the U.S. is literally murdering people in Lebanon. Can we get a fucking grip?
Hi, welcome back to the channel. So I'm seeing a lot of strong discussion about the birth rate and there's a decline in the birth rate. And I mean, are we all surprised about the decline in the birth rate? Because some people are even expecting it to be more than the way it is. Like it needs to seriously, like there needs to be a serious decline where to the point where we can go days without having any birth or something going on because of how everything is. I mean, do I need to say things are not moving smoothly? You know, there's a lot of problems everywhere. So the decline in birth rate has people talking. People are actually sharing their thoughts about it, and a lot of people are excited about it and actually want it to be more than this. So they want it to be worse than it is already. So but before we get right into this video and check it out, please make sure you click the like button. It helps the algorithm and I appreciate that so much. Let's get right into this video.
What are men freaking out about today? Well, probably the fact that we would need 2.7 kids per woman to avoid human extinction, and the current worldwide rate is only 2.3 kids per woman. There's something comforting about knowing that one day the human race will go away just like the dodo, but I do want to talk about some other numbers. It's the fact that the US birth rate is down to 1.6 kids per woman. We are really doing our part to end the human race. And then I saw another number, Japan, they're hovering somewhere between 1.2 and 1.4 kids per woman. Ugh, goals, am I right? But I do have to say, if you want people to have children, maybe try making it even remotely affordable. They just keep yelling at us. They're like, have babies, have babies. It feels like when there's a house on fire and someone just walks into the house and instead of putting it out with water or whatever, they just yell at the fire, stop burning. And then based on the way that the current administration treats women, it's like they're also throwing some alcohol on the flames. When I say they want us to have babies, I'm not talking about me personally. Nobody wants me to have a baby. I'm 42 years old and out of my mind. And even though I'm not a marketing genius, this does feel like a simple case of supply and demand. So what they're selling is the idea of having babies, and no one's buying, which means they need to start lowering the prices of things. So what should be lower? I don't know. Groceries, childcare, healthcare, rent. If they lower all those things, maybe people will think, I think I will have a baby. Again, not me. Won't be having a baby.
Billionaires are literally begging y'all to have children so they can have a working force. And they know for a fact people are cautious. That's why you see billionaire mothers coming out online and saying stuff like, oh, have lots of kids even if you can't afford them. Knowing that there really aren't any social programs to feed those hungry children. And those same programs have been dismantled and said that they're wasteful government spending. The same reason why you see billionaires saying stuff like, you won't need to save for retirement. You don't need to save for the next 10 years, 20 years. Because they don't want you guys to retire. They want you to be working until you're old. That's also why they're saying they want teen mothers having children. Because they know that if you're a teen mom, you're more likely to be vulnerable and poor. And so you'll join the working force and take any wage they give you. And so will your child. Mind you, they took away your right for bodily autonomy with Roe versus Wade. And thought that it would mean you had no choice but to keep pregnancy, but people just stopped getting pregnant instead. Then they said that they can't afford to spend on daycare and healthcare, but they still want you to have the baby. They're panicking and scrambling because they don't feel like they're gonna have enough workers in the future to keep them rich.
I wanted to wait till the day is over to post this to be 100% sure we're not like preemptively causing a panic. But my friend works at a hospital and he called me earlier and he was like freaking out. He was going crazy. And I asked him why. And he was like, not a single baby was born today. And you look at that, like one hospital, not a single baby being born there, crazy, insane. Like the odds of that happening are so unlikely. But it's not just his hospital. They called every single hospital in a 50-mile radius, and there was not one single baby born at any of them today. And so obviously I also started panicking. I also started freaking out. And I asked him the only question I could really think of to ask in a situation like that. What do you think football is going to look like in the future?
If the birth rate keeps getting so low, they're going to take away birth control. Well, they already took away abortion. We all stop fucking. The other half of us is gay. I ain't never seen no girl get no girl pregnant. You can have it. Have the birth control. Have the abortion. We ain't fucking.
Well, in unsurprising news out of Gilead, watch this.
The U.S. fertility rate reached another record low last year, only 53.1 births per 1,000 women aged 15 to 44.
Wait, what did you just say?
And women aged 15 to...
You're talking about children, not women, children, but somehow it still gets worse.
But the problem is teens and young adults. From ages 15 to 19, the fertility rate is down 7%, and it's down 70% over the last 2 decades.
And there it is. They want children having babies. They want 15, 16. Remember there was a time when us collectively would have thought dropping teen pregnancy rates were a good thing? Well, most of us. Not the elite, because they want little girls trapped in a cycle of poverty, dependent on a system they don't even want to fund. Making sure that those little girls can't get educated. They can't make any money because they're going to be stuck in jobs that pay so little they can't even get above the poverty rate. And none of this is even a surprise because they've already been saying it. In lawsuits to try to stop the AB pill in certain states, they listed one of the reasons being a drop in teen pregnancy rates by having access to it. Because they want children having children. Because you know who's not easily manipulated and controlled? Grown-ass women who are educated and capable of taking care of themselves. You know who they can control? Yeah, young girls. Because as we've said a million times, this is not about life.
The Trump administration wants teen pregnancy to rise, full stop. Yesterday, Katie Miller, wife of White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, condemned that teenage birth rate is not higher. Miller said that hormonal birth control is, quote, killing population growth and that our biological destiny is to have babies. She cited that teen births have crashed 81% since 1991. So let's translate that. They're nostalgic for a time when more girls were having children before they had options. Teen births have dropped 81% since 1991, and that's not a decline, that's progress. Because in 1990, as a little reminder, 43% of teen mothers ended up in extreme poverty within 5 years. Republicans are increasingly clear by the day. The next target is birth control and IVF. You see it in proposals from the Heritage Foundation, behind Project 2025, in state legislation, and in public messaging. Their argument is simple, clear, and being repeated daily. If women didn't have birth control or IVF, they'd have kids earlier, and the birth rates would go up. But data says the opposite. Women are not delaying children because they can. They're delaying children because they have to. Housing, unaffordable. Childcare, unaffordable. Healthcare, unaffordable. Food, unaffordable. And all these things the Trump administration is just making more unaffordable. Birth control doesn't stop families. It makes them possible through family planning. Access to contraception lowers poverty rates, increases earning potential, and helped drive nearly 1/3 of the reduction in the gender wage gap by the 1990s. This is about control and limiting women's choices, and the call is coming from inside the White House.
So they said that the birth rate declined yet again. And I'm here to tell y'all, it's funny to me how we're mad that the birth rate is declining. We know why they're mad it's declining. But it's funny to me how they're mad that the birth rate is declining. But yet we come out with statistics and numbers that further solidify why we shouldn't be having kids. The president just got there and said, why would we pay for daycare? They're saying, why would we feed hungry kids? Why would I want to bring a child into this right now? There are parents, there are women getting up here telling women without kids, do not have kids. Yes, they love their kids, but they're saying do not have kids. And people are like, oh, you know, why are y'all not having kids? Blah, 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 blah. Kids are beautiful. Kids are precious. If we lived in a country, specifically a country that gave a fuck about kids and gave a fuck about women a lot more than they do, you wouldn't see these numbers decline. But they don't give a fuck. They don't care. They do not care. They don't care. They care enough to control your body, but when the baby that they want you so desperately to have gets here, they don't care. They don't do anything. They sit up there, they complain, they don't care. They don't want to protect the kids. They don't want to create a country where the kids can thrive. And these kids can't thrive in this country. They cannot thrive here. You're trying to take away funding for public schools and colleges and public colleges and universities. What the fuck do you mean? You want these kids to go right from the school system straight into the workforce. You don't want to take care of their mental. You don't want to make sure that they're learning what they need to learn. You don't want to do any of that, but you want so desperately women to have kids. Daycare, women are getting on here telling us, parents are getting on here telling us that daycare is like $1,800 to $2,000 a month. And the economy is already shit. Why the fuck would anybody be wanting to have kids right now? Feeding a family is like $300 to $400 a week. What do you mean? Like, why would anybody be wanting to have kids right now? People without kids are looking at people with kids and they're like, not saying every situation looks miserable, but they're like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm not in a position to do that. Why do we keep wanting people to have kids? Because a lot of people are not financially or mentally in the state to take care of kids. Then when those kids get here under those people who are not mentally and financially stable, then you don't want to take care of them. You don't want to do anything, but you want to force them to have kids. Women are abstaining. Women are like, I'm not having sex. They don't want to have sex with these men out here. They don't want to procreate with these men out here. They don't want to. They want to live their life. They want to bring a child into this. We treat having kids like going to go buy a new top. These are lives. These are human lives. And me, along with other women who don't have kids, who don't want any right now, or just don't want any, don't want to bring children into this world under this. Under this for what? Under this for what? These are human beings. These have emotions and feelings. These kids don't want to be born. People are having 4, 5, 6 kids in poverty in a hotel room. Kids don't want to live like that. Kids don't want to feel like they're a burden. They don't want to look around and be like, oh my God, my parents didn't have any money to have me. Kids don't want to live like that. But you're asking why the birth rate. I hope the birth rate keeps declining because at some point the point needs to be driven home. And right now it's not being driven home. Until kindergarten and pre-K classrooms start becoming vacant and empty, the point is not going to get driven home. It's not going to get driven home. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I said these Republicans, these MAGA, they're so indoctrinated in this code. They're so delusional that they don't think straight. If you create an environment where people can thrive, homelessness is decreasing at an astounding rate, jobs are booming, financially people can do great, people might consider like, I can have a baby in this. I can thrive in this environment. But you create the worst conditions possible. There's no money. They're already put out a study. There's no jobs. There's more people unemployed than there are jobs available. Because you want to give it to AI. You want to give it to some fucking robots and you want to outsource it overseas. If you create conditions in an environment where people are happy and can thrive, what do you think will happen? People wouldn't mind bringing kids in because, I can afford a $100 daycare bill because my rent is $800. There's no reason for rent on a 1-bedroom apartment to go over $1,000. I don't give a damn how luxury it is. At the end of the day, these apartments are already established. These bills are already paid. There's no reason for apartments to be charging, especially a 1-bedroom, over $1,000. Apartments used to be the cheaper option. Having an apartment now, the price of an apartment now is what a mortgage was 10, 15 years ago. That's asinine. That's insane. That's delusional. A 2 to 3 bedroom apartment is running you upwards of $2,500. And we think that that's okay. And you're wondering why nobody wants to bring a child into this. There is the largest number of people who are going back to live with their parents. You have people who went to medical school, going to be doctors, PhDs that cannot find work. And we think that this is normal. We think that this is just normal living. This is just normal. And you're surprised nobody wants to bring a baby into this. You're trying to normalize pedos and rapists. You're trying to normalize that. You're trying to lower the age of consent. You're asking, why would I fix the weapons regulations in this country? I want to keep my weapon. I don't want to regulate it. You're asking that, and these schools are getting blown up every fucking couple of days, and you're asking yourself why people are not having kids. The mental health crisis is running rampant in this country. Nobody's helping the people with mental illness. You're taking away cancer funding for cancer research funding to put it into your pocket or to fund this bullshit ass war that we're in and future bullshit ass wars, because you and your homeboys are craving power at an immense rate. And we're wondering why nobody wants to bring kids into this shit. You're putting AI data centers in places and fucking up the air quality so people are getting sick, and you're asking why people don't want kids? Are we being serious right now?
We still have 3.6 million births a year, but the problem is teens and young adults. From ages 15 to 19, the fertility rate is down 7%, and it's down 70% over the last 2 decades, meaning we're telling people that are young not to have babies, to wait till they're in a more stable life situation, till they're more financially secure.
If you're not encouraging your children to grow up and have the courage to get married and have kids, more kids than they can afford before they think they're ready, it is high time to start. It is these choices, like deleting our dating apps and putting birth control.
This does not apply to their kids, okay? Their kids get to live by the old standard. Get your education, go to college, make sure you are settled, have a good partner before you have children, and never have more than you can afford. And God forbid one of their daughters gets pregnant, they'll make sure that she's no longer pregnant, not no longer alive, no longer pregnant. This isn't for the likes of them, it's for their little worker bees. They need them to keep being stupid and reproduce all willy-nilly. But now they're double tracking, right? Because they still need the country to be white majority. So they need more poor white people. Uneducated and poor and so racist that they'll find some way to blame anyone darker than them for their shortcomings, while these uneducated, poor, racist fucks just keep reproducing, mindlessly supporting this regime that can only survive by making sure that they stay poor and racist. Yikes!
Republicans have really been telling on themselves recently. New data about the birth rates in the US just came out, and they are losing it. Why? Because fewer teens are having babies. And I don't mean like just 18 and 19-year-olds. I mean 15 to 19-year-olds. They are deeply upset that 15 to 19-year-olds are not having babies. Katie Miller, who is a Republican influencer, podcaster, and wife of Stephen Miller, who is one of Trump's top advisors, took to Twitter a few days ago to say, since 2007, the teen birth rate has fallen 72%. Hormonal birth control isn't just poison for women's minds and bodies, it's killing population growth. No, it's not. I made an entire YouTube video about this. Birth control has nothing to do with fertility rates, okay? Birth control just allows people to get later in their life without having an unplanned pregnancy, and then when they're in their 30s, they're just more likely to have fertility issues to begin with. It's not because of the birth control. Okay, continuing on. For the first time ever, birth rates for women in their late 30s have surpassed those in their early 20s. Okay, great. So people who are more financially stable and more emotionally prepared to have children are now the ones having children? What's the problem? Our biological destiny is to have babies, not slave behind desks chasing careers while our civilization dies. There it is, folks. If you have a uterus, it is your biological destiny to have babies. Oh, sorry, you have other ambitions? You want to have a career? You want to do something with your life that isn't just bear and raise children? Too bad. It's your fault that our civilization is dying. This is the right-wing messaging. This is what they are saying across the board. If you are a woman who is prioritizing a career above having a family in your 20s, it's your fault that our civilization is dying. You want to talk about women upholding the patriarchy? Katie Miller is doing just that. Because what do you mean you're going to blame women for the fall of civilization? Because we dare to want to have careers. I say this as a 32-year-old woman with a career and a toddler. We can do both. Also, this is not telling the full story. Because yes, even as annual fertility falls, most women are eventually having children. Yeah, they might be having them a little later in life, but they are still having them. So what we're seeing right now is that we are in this weird period of time where the fertility rate has not caught up because the people in their 20s and 30s who have not yet had children are contributing to this like falling birth rate, but they will probably have children. So if you look at these numbers again in like 10 years, we may be catching up more. They're just fear-mongering about the falling birth rates because they have this white supremacist great replacement theory bullshit that they're trying to push on people.
People didn't just wake up in one day and be like, oh, we are not having kids. I mean, it's just basically people are not confused. We're all living in reality. We're facing reality for what it is. And with the way the political situation and every single thing that's happening in the world, the economy worldwide, it's just making many people see things for what it is and be like, this doesn't make sense. Like how I can barely take care of myself, because we have a lot of people who are struggling to take care of their self. So what makes you think that when a person is struggling to take care of their own self, will be feeling like, oh, we're comfortable enough, let's bring other life into this earth? Like that's not going to make any sense at all. So that's the reason why a lot of people are not having kids, and there's many other, I mean, people have many reasons as to why, and rightfully so. With everything that's happening, it's even looking like maybe genuinely, maybe a lot of people actually want the birth rates to decline. Maybe that's the reason why we are actually first or put in a situation for us to suffer. Like maybe that's the reason why things are the way it is. So people would actually choose not to give birth. Maybe it's actually a to reduce the population. There's absolutely no reason for anyone to be surprised as to why the birth rate is declining, because a lot of young people are actually still living in their parents' house. Many people are actually latching on to someone to try to survive the present day we're in, because of how tough and everything just feels like a struggle for survival. So people are doing that, and it's just not making any sense for someone to be thinking about, oh, let's keep reproducing and having kids, because I mean, everything is expensive. People can even barely afford rent by themselves. People can barely even afford groceries by themselves. Need to, do it together with someone. Like a lot of people have to come together to survive. And so you're thinking, oh, people's thoughts will be first, oh, let's just have kids, let's produce kids, let's just have kids, a lot of kids, when it's expensive. Childcare is expensive. A lot of people cannot afford childcare, so of course this is what's gonna happen. If things continue being like this or even worse than this, then honestly expect the birth rates to decline even further down than it is right now. It's like you don't need statistics to tell you. You can clearly see around you, like maybe you rarely even see newborns. That's what's about to happen. When a person is struggling and they go ahead to have a child, then you're only increasing your struggle. Like you're not making anything better. You're making your struggle even more intense and worse than it is, and you're bringing you're bringing a child into that struggle, so the child can struggle even more with you. That's just what it is. So when you think about the maths, it's not making any sense, and the best thing to do is to not bring a child into the struggle. You've made it to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching this video to the very end. Please make sure you click the like button. It helps with the algorithm. I appreciate that so much. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you're watching me for the very first time. Hit the notification bell to get notified every time I post a new video. I'll leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I would love to see what you think about this video, and I'll see you on the next one.